Imagine hearing a metallic chirp inside your own head that suddenly makes the room tilt. Could it really be a secret weapon? Or just a very loud cricket? Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Allie. Coffee in one hand, ghost radar in the other. I am ready.
And I'm Brianne. I had tea, I have skepticism, and I have questions as usual.
Welcome to the Veil, Unsolved and Unbelievable, where we ruin brunch with mysteries and sometimes fix Mondays with conspiracies.
My morning was fine, until Allie sent me a 2 a.m. voice note titled Microwave Beams. Thanks for that nightmare fuel.
Okay, so check this out. Today we're diving into Havana syndrome, also called anomalous health incidents. The diplomats, the chirps, the headaches, the whole rabbit hole.
Of course we are, because nothing says light content like dizziness and geopolitics. All right, let's do it.
Here's what went down. Late 2016, US and Canadian diplomats in Havana started reporting weird, localized sounds in homes and hotel rooms. Screeching, chirping, clicking. And then suddenly, acute symptoms. Head pressure, ear pain, cognitive fog, headaches, dizziness. Some had vision issues, some developed tinnitus or hearing loss. Others reported an unsteady gait, and yes, some symptoms lingered for months, like insomnia and balance problems. Important context. This isn't a recognized disease in the medical manuals. It's not in the ICD. Part of why this is messy is that cases vary a lot. Different clusters, different settings, hotels, private residences, vehicles, even outdoors. We're talking reports in a dozen or so countries, not just Cuba. Vienna, Guangzhou, Hanoi, even near the White House in D.C.
Right, and because it's not in the diagnostic manuals, there isn't a single agreed mechanism or standardized treatment. That's a big red flag for neat one-cause stories. Sorry, not sorry.
But the reports were serious enough that embassies drew down staff. The U.S. expelled Cuban diplomats in 2017, family postings were pulled, and there were evacuations from Guangzhou. Even a Vietnam trip by the vice president was delayed after incidents. The U.S. created task forces at state, CIA, and DoD, and federal support programs exist for people reporting these symptoms. That doesn't happen over nothing. Okay, the theory. Some believe there's a clandestine microwave-based system that can paint a room from hundreds of yards away. A narrow radio frequency beam that could skim data from devices while causing those acute sensations. The chirp, the pressure, the disequilibrium. It supposedly rides reflections off concrete and glass, like a flashlight but for RF.
Wait. A beam that steals data and gives you the spins. That's a very convenient multi-tool. Any receipts?
So, look. A 2014 NSA memo reported by media years later referenced a hostile nation with a microwave capability aimed at living quarters and possibly causing nervous system effects. Then, in 2020, the National Academy's panel said directed RF energy was the most plausible of the considered hypotheses. They were clear it was limited info and still speculative. But that line lit up the switchboard. Media reports in 2020 and 2021 quoted unnamed officials pointing the finger at Russian GRU-linked tech, with talk of portable devices potentially used at 500 to 1,000 yards. I know, unnamed, but that chatter echoed across agencies.
Unnamed officials and plausibility statements are like popcorn. Tasty, not a meal. We need data that rules things in, not vibes.
Back to the story. There's a field account from Vienna that stuck with me. A diplomat hears this thin metallic chirp that feels internal, not environmental. Moves a step toward a balcony, and the pressure spikes behind one eye. Steps into the bathroom and it eases. Then it cuts off mid-note like a switch. Similar reports came out of Guangzhou in D.C., near the ellipse. A staffer reportedly went to their knees with sudden symptoms. These are tight, directional sensations. That's why the beam hypothesis keeps resurfacing. Also, the CIA and DoD didn't shrug. Late 2020, both set up task forces. When William Burns took over the CIA in 2021, He expanded the probe and tapped a very senior officer with major manhunt experience to run it. That screams this was treated as potentially adversarial and technically sophisticated. Plus, support programs for affected people rolled out. Again, that's a big institutional response.
Let's put a pin in the glam beam for a second. The recorded sounds from early Cuba incidents were analysed by independent biologists and a government advisory group. They matched them to crickets, specifically the Indies short-tailed cricket. The Jason panel said the sounds were most likely insect calls, and also said there was no plausible single RF or sonic source that explained both the recordings and the medical complaints together. That matters. And the FBI's tech division, in 2018, found no evidence of a sonic attack. Their behavioural analysis unit leaned toward mass psychogenic illness, based on interviews and records. Plus, University of Michigan researchers showed that intermodulation from ultrasonic security devices can create bizarre audible artifacts, so you can get weird sounds without a Bond villain in a van.
Still, you can't cricket your way through Vienna, Guangzhou, Hanoi, and the Ellipse. And you can't psychogenic your way into embassy drawdowns and evacuations. I'm not saying every clip was a weapon signature, but the pattern of acute, localized onset and the spread across hotspots feels like more than building noise and stressed brains.
Moving right along. Early clinical work compared some cases to persistent concussion, but later, larger assessments didn't replicate a consistent brain injury signature. If a precise energy weapon was doing a precise thing to brains, I'd expect a more consistent pattern. Also, not all reported cases even held up under scrutiny. Some had ordinary medical explanations. That chips away at the one cause idea.
I hear you, but the National Academy's panel didn't toss the directed energy idea. They actually ranked it as most plausible among what they looked at. The 2014 memo exists as part of the record, even if redacted and contested. Plus, there's the geopolitical context. Clusters outside Cuba, like Vienna, reportedly one of the biggest sets, and the timing around sensitive diplomatic work. That's a tempting shape for an adversary play.
The CDC's 2019 report on nearly 100 people basically concluded no identified mechanism, exposure process, treatment, or mitigation. They even declined a retrospective case control study because of bias and timing. Translation: the data were a mess. The intelligence community has not reached a consensus attribution. Different components have different confidence levels. That's not exactly open and shut spycraft.
Or, conspiracy alert, it's exactly what you'd expect if classified barriers, medical privacy, and interagency silos keep everyone from lining up their jigsaw pieces. We know coordination was hampered. We know programs exist to support affected people. We know evacuations and warnings happened. Where there's that much smoke, I feel like there's at least a hot plate somewhere.
Or there's a fog machine, which is what stress, expectation, and rumour do to human perception. Mass psychogenic illness isn't saying people are faking. It's saying the brain under stress can produce very real symptoms that spread socially. Add insects, weird building acoustics, and ultrasonic gadgets, and you've got a very human cocktail.
So here's the deal. If some cases are crickets and some are stress, I think a subset could still be tech. Not one neat syndrome maybe, but a cluster of different things, including possibly a directed RF device that pops up where it most hurts us diplomatically. That mixed model actually fits the chaos.
I can live with mixed causes, but I need stronger, declassified, reproducible evidence before I call it an RF weapon. Until then, my money is on bugs, buildings, and brains. So let me get this straight. We agree it's complicated, but we disagree about how much spy tech is in the stew.
Greater question time. How much do our expectations sculpt what we feel, especially under pressure? Like, can belief literally bend perception into pain?
Totally. And that's why separating signal from noise matters, whether the signal is a cricket, a rumour, or a beam. Perception is powerful, but it cuts both ways.
If you want to dive deeper, read the National Academy's report from December 2020 on these incidents. Check the CDC report released via FOIA, and follow the Vienna and Guangzhou reporting. It's a ride. Just, keep your critical hat on.
All right, moving on. What's your plan for the rest of the day? Are you going to point your phone at every streetlight and whisper, "Show me the beam"?
Honestly, yes. Also, I'm buying earplugs and maybe a cricket field guide. Cover all bases.
I'm making tea and reading boring methodology papers. Living the dream. Thanks for listening. Send us your thoughts and your weird Hotel Sand recordings. And we'll, not jump to conclusions.
Question everything, believe in something, and be kind to your ears. We'll see you next time on The Veil, Unsolved and Unbelievable.